Hey everyone, welcome back to the Fish Tank. I'm Bad as Fish, and today I thought it would be interesting to have a look at see if we could build a deck using only common cards. Now, if you're familiar with Minion Masters, you'll know there's 4 types of cards when we're talking about the card rarity. So, the most common card is common. So if we have a look here, the green card with the green gem, that's common. And then, one step up, we've got the rare, which is the blue gem, rare, and then the purple, which we have, is supreme, and then of course we have the yellow, golden, however you want to describe it, for the legendaries. So let's have a look at here. Got to hypnotize, we see the legendary text and the legendary little gem there. Now, one thing to note is Mini Masters is a little different to how it does it with regards to the rarities, because when a card's legendary, it tends to mean it's more unique. So the more rare a card is, the more unique it is. So a lot of the legendaries you'll see they have very unique abilities that are not something that many or any other cards will do. And that's one thing to note is a lot of other games, the higher rarity cards are the stronger cards, where Mini Masters doesn't follow that train of thought. It's more about their uniqueness. So that's something that new players definitely get confused about, and they see people with legendaries in their deck and they think it's paid to win, but it's really not. So the common cards, which are the most common rarity, we're going to look at today, the base one, and I think the reason it's important to look at that is these cards are going to be available to new players. Either they have them already as part of the starter deck, or they're very cheap to craft with the shards, being the most common cards, they're the cheapest to craft. So whether you're new or experienced to the game, you should be able to probably put together a deck like this. So what have we put in this deck? So I decided I was going to make a Morellia deck, and it was going to be a spell reduction deck. So remember, the way Morellia's spell reduction works is it reduces 1 4+ mana spell at perk 1 and 3 4+ mana spells at perk 2. So you want to build it ideally with at least 3 4+ mana spells, and you can see here we've got our Chain Lightning, we've got our Poison Strike, and our Beam of Doom. So when we're talking about the spell reduction, we're talking about the last option in Morellia's spellbook to reduce the cost of the spell. So let's go through, just have a quick look at the cards that we've decided to add. So we've got the Elite Swarmer. He's a cheap little tanky guy, very efficient tank for his mana value. And then we've got a Grenadier, again, very cheap, but really good ground-based AoE, really good at clearing away Horde. So he's a great addition to any deck. Right, then we've got the S.T.INT. So this is a cheap ranged unit. Of course, when we're building our deck, we want to make sure we have some anti-air options. So he gives us some cheap anti-air, but of course he also has his Outlander tech ability. So if we have 75 tech, then we can use him to grab a bridge, the furthest away bridge, when he spawns. Now, because we're including him and we want to use his tech ability, we want to make sure we've got other Outlander cards in the deck to generate that tech. Remember, they generate 5 tech per mana when drawn. So you can see there we've got a few other Outlander options. So for example, here we got the Plasma Marines, again, cheap ranged minions. They can split and take both bridges, and of course they do give us some Outlander tech. Next up we have the Wild Stonebjorn. So you could play this guy or you could play a warrior. This guy is better when it comes to tanking against Horde, and it's not a card I use too often, so I thought I'd throw him in here. Give him a good try. He, of course, has a thick hide, which means incoming spell and minion damage is reduced by 7 down to a minimum of 1. And it's because of that he's really good at tanking against Horde. We have the Chain Lightning, which is a very, very strong spell. Did get nerfed a little bit with the jump distance down to 6 from 7 in the latest patch, but still very strong. And of course, if we're reducing the cost of it down to 3 mana with the spellbook, then that's a really good removal spell. And Mordar's very strong in the meta at the moment, so a stun is always welcome in that matchup. Next up we have the Drone Buzzers. We got some flying ranged minions, so that just gives us some anti-air and some flying minions, and of course again they're Outlanders, so they're going to help us generate that tech. So just a few more cards to go. We've got Poison Strike in here. which is a very strong removal spell. Been very meta recently with regards to the mana chasers, but this is a real good removal spell. I like it, and I think it's strong even if you're not playing it in a deck that can get the sacrifice to double the duration. It has very good removal. Now we have the Defenso Chopper, which really is the best anti-melee tool in the game. And so with the change to the bridges recently, he's really good at just kind of hanging about slowly, just loitering on a bridge, being a pain for people to play into or remove unless they've got some real good answers to it. So we definitely like the Defenso Chopper. And then finally we've got the Beam of Doom. This is our big removal spell. I'll get out of jail free. Remember, you don't have to use these cards every time. Something like this in a spell reduction Morellia deck makes it a little awkward because you want to be using your spells every rotation so that you can use your spell reduction again, because you can't reduce a spell further once it's reduced if you want to get the maximum value. But Beam of Doom, one of my favorite spells and really helpful in there. And of course it does give us some good face damage. Okay, so there we have it, a common only deck. We'll put a link in the description, or we'll put a command in the description so you can copy this and check it out if you want. But let's have a look at how it fares in the arena. Okay, so let's load into a game here. This is a randoms 2v2. So my teammate is playing Apep, as you can see, and we're against Volko and Setsu. Let's see how this game pans out. So you can see we've both got similar decks, actually. Cheap control decks. Let's see how they work out. So the Stint not taking the top bridge because it doesn't have enough tech generated yet. Ulf is a card I do like at the bottom there. Not great against Horde, but an interesting card. And of course Kernaf there, getting some extra value when you're using your spells. Right, let's see how we can deal with the Reckinator. One thing to keep in mind is thinking about what counters you have for what cards. Now, the Defenso Chopper is great for the Reckinator. And just for reference, my deck is on the right at the bottom here because we're in the replay for whatever reason. So I know I've got a Defenso Chopper, which is going to be great for dealing with this. Teammate playing the new Rendreth card. Let's see what value he can get out of it. Thumbs up at the top there because my teammate managed to get an Elite Swarmer to squirm onto the bridge. And a little collision bridge grab. Right, Rendreth has marked at the bottom there, so we should get that cleaver back. Remember, they spawn with half health and half damage, and they are cursed. We've just about had enough bodies at the top to stop Fanriel busting through. Got to be real careful with that charge. You can really get some huge value, especially if you're playing it with or in a Volko deck because of the rage and the extra Berserker Rage potential. So XP is about the same right now. Using the spellbook for mana reduction becomes really important at perk 2. I've used the skeletons quite a lot, I think, out of necessity at the moment. But once we get to perk 2, we're going to be saving more mana from the spellbook. So we want to be utilizing that as much as possible. Here we go. Perk 2 is up. Spellbook is a timed perk, so you don't want to hold on to it really. You want to use it as efficiently and as quickly as possible so you can start your way towards the next one. Right, so my spellbook's coming up now. What am I going to do with it? Okay, so then we've got the spell reduction. You can see we've got the Poison Strike for 3 mana, the Chain Lightning for 3 mana, and the 6 mana Beam of Doom. When you have the cheap spells, you do want to be just a little bit more gung-ho with using them because they are cheaper than normal. So something you might not want to Chain Lightning because you've got the reduction. You might want to try doing it instead. And of course you've got to remember that you want to use the reduced spells so that you can reduce them again for the next time. Okay. That was the situation there. My teammate used his Poison Strike. I should have used mine instead, since mine was cheaper. Just small little things, especially when you're playing with someone. Those little things can just take your gameplay to the next level. Okay, so we've got a little XP lead here. Beam of Doom to take that out. I didn't get faced with that because I knew he was about to move, so I didn't want to risk leaving him just a little alive. So it kind of worked out, but we didn't get the face damage. But, you know, sometimes you've got to accept that you can't get everything. Okay, so Rendrath dies pretty quickly at the bottom there. That's a very scary Bolf, but Bolf is marked. You can see that he does have kind of a green-ish tint, which means he is marked. So when he dies, he will come back. That's one thing that people are not particularly aware of. When Rendrath marks, mark is permanent. So even though Rendrath has come and gone, once that Bolf dies, he will return to fight for us. Now we do need to be careful because they do have a lot of DPS, and they're raged, and they've got a lot of melee units, so their Berserker Rage can be really, really strong. But there we see Bolf. He might be half health and half damage, but his freeze is 100%. Perk 3 Setsu is up, so we need to be careful with that. I do have my Chain Lightning, my Beam of Doom, and I think Setsu's very, very strong, although a little bugged at the moment. There we have a Ghost pops out for my teammate, and I think that's the Ghost from his perk 3. So he got very lucky with that, but you know, that's just sometimes how the luck goes. Big push now with our perk 3 Dragon. We're not playing an Ascension deck, so we only have this Dragon one time, and it might not get to face, might not do too much damage, but it's going to hold things on their side of the field and help us keep the bridges and get that XP for a good while. Okay, there we see the Dragon's dead, but let's have a look at the XP. We got the 60 XP lead. That's substantial. We do need to manage the perk 3 Setsu though. This is where the spells come in really importantly. My teammate, I didn't like the way he played his Rendrath straight into the Setsu. I kind of saved him a little bit there, I think. That Rendrath was going to get shredded. That's what teammates are for, right? Help each other out in a bit of a bind. Also remember that Fanriel has the true damage, so he will ignore Apep's shield. And it looks like he's got Berserker Rage there, so that would have done a lot of face damage. Now, if you watch the bottom there, that's a marked Reconator, I think. So we're going to get a Reconator that reses. But as soon as the curse ticks like one time, he goes straight into his self-destruct. Now, we're about to get Mana Frenzy. This is where we want to capitalize on the bridges. But we do need to be careful. We've got Bolf is going to stun. And we do have that huge DPS potential at the top there from Fergus. Look at that Rendrath just getting kind of murdered at the top there. But it doesn't matter too much as long as we can grab these bridges. We've got to just handle the Setsu. And I do have a beam, so I'm probably just like, you know what? Let's just get rid of this Setsu. We've got the mana, we've got the bridges. Let's just push on. No messing about. Sometimes that Setsu could be a real problem. Just get rid of it. And so we've reached Mana Frenzy first. We do have the bridges fairly decently locked down. I can just keep using my spell reduction, get those cheap spells, and just keeping the pressure on, really. And this, remember, this is an all-common deck. This is a decently high-level game in randoms. So it just really goes to show you don't need all these legendary cards to do well. It's all about using the cards efficiently and correctly, not just about having these legendary cards that may have these fancy mechanics. There we see the Reconator coming back from the dead, but straight away going into the self-destruct. And again, we're just not worrying. I just don't want to deal with that Setsu. Removal and push on. Fanriel really wants to get his charge up, but he's stuck in the corner. Howling Moon, sorry. But it's just not going to be enough. And there we go. That's game, set, and match. And that's an all-common deck. Let me know what you think of the deck. We'll put the deck in the description so you can try it out. It is designed to be a Morellia deck, hence we've got those 3 removal spells. We could adjust it. Let me know if you want me to do a rare only. Maybe we'll do rare, supreme, and then legendary only. Let me know in the comments, and we'll see if we can do that in the future. Anyway, just a quick video from me. I'm Bad as a Fish, and no cam today, but I am awkward waving. I hope to see you guys again soon here in the fish tank. And don't forget, if you enjoy the content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, should you wish to. Take care. Still awkward waving.